The story begins in Italy, late at night. We see an elderly couple at home, Peter Wilson and his wife, Margarita Wilson. Peter is passionate about old and antique items. He collects them, and if something is broken, he always tries to repair it himself. That night, Peter is in the attic of their house when he finds an old radio that won't turn on. He starts repairing it. While he's working, Margarita comes up to tell him that dinner is ready, and she later goes downstairs. After fixing the radio, Peter turns it on. A normal station frequency appears. But then something strange happens. Quiet! He hears a woman's voice saying, "Quiet?" Peter listens carefully. The voice then says, "He can hear us," and again repeats "quiet" in a louder tone. Shocked and confused, Peter quickly turns the radio off. He can't understand what is happening, so he switches it on again. This time, he sees a woman standing in the corner of the attic. Whenever Peter turns the radio off, she disappears. When he turns it on, she appears again and slowly moves closer to him. Peter keeps turning the radio on and off in panic. Finally, the woman's ghostly figure turns the radio off herself. Peter gets scared, stands up, and suddenly someone grabs him by the neck. One of Peter's eyes has now changed color. Margarita hears the noise and starts walking toward the attic, but we are not shown what happens next. During the opening credits, we see several old photographs showing that many different families have owned this same mysterious radio in the past. After this, the story shifts to New York City, where we meet Emma, the main character. She dreams of becoming a singer and has a beautiful voice, but success hasn't come her way yet. Emma lives with her boyfriend, Seba, and the two share a very loving relationship. One day, Emma goes for a singing audition, but something goes wrong. She suddenly can't sing. She stands silent for a few moments and then leaves quietly, possibly out of fear or lack of confidence. Back home, she tells Seba what happened. He comforts her and encourages her to try again next time. We see that Seba is kind, caring, and deeply supportive. A little later, Emma receives a call from her mother. Her father, Peter, has been hospitalized. Worried, Emma decides to return to Italy. She plans to go alone, but Seba insists on coming along because he doesn't want her to travel alone. The next day, they both fly to Italy. At the hospital, Emma meets her mother, Margarita, who is very upset. Emma hugs her and then speaks with the doctor. The doctor explains that Peter is in intensive care because a head injury caused a blood clot. They must keep him under observation, and if the medicine doesn't work, surgery may be needed. His survival chances are uncertain. Then, the doctor asks Emma something shocking. He says they found bruises on Margarita's face and arms, suggesting she might have defended herself from Peter. Emma is stunned because her parents always loved each other and never fought. It seemed as if Emma's father had attacked her mother, so the doctors decided to keep Margarita under observation too. Emma gently tells her mother it's only for safety and she'll be discharged soon. Margarita tries to explain something, but Emma stops her, saying, "Not now, Mom. Tell me later when you're okay." Margarita says, "The one who attacked me wasn't your father." She also warns Emma, "Don't go home tonight. Stay in a hotel. The house isn't safe." Emma ignores the warning, wanting to know what really happened, and decides to go home. As she arrives, the house alarm suddenly goes on due to a malfunction. She turns it off and shows Seba around. he loves the place. She also shows him her soundproof music room, which her parents built so she could practice singing freely. Later, they share a romantic moment and go to the attic, filled with antiques. On a table lies the same old radio her father once repaired. Emma tells Seba about his passion for old objects and fixing them. She turns the radio on. Nothing strange happens, but then she notices the word "help" typed on an old typewriter, which feels unsettling. Seba calls her to the kitchen. The food in the fridge has spoiled, leaving nothing for dinner. They could order online, but since the area is isolated, Seba decides to get food from a food van they saw earlier. Emma offers him the car keys, but Seba says, "Keep the car here in case the hospital calls." So she gives him her mother's old bicycle, which is worn out but still works. Now, Emma is home alone while Seba goes out to get food. At the food van, a man steals his bicycle, and since he forgot his wallet, he can't buy anything. With no option, he starts walking home, which will take time. Meanwhile, Emma plans to take a bath, but first goes into her sound room, where childhood memories return. She turns on her recording system, yet suddenly hears the same woman's voice her father once heard. Thinking it's imagination or a technical fault, she ignores it. At 9:30 p.m., the old attic radio turns on by itself, playing a classic song. Uneasy, Emma steps out and goes upstairs. The radio plays on its own, but before she can switch it off, the ghostly woman turns it off herself. Confused, Emma turns it back on, and now sees a woman standing in the attic corner. Panicking, she turns it off, and the figure vanishes. She tries again. This time, the spirit rushes toward her, forcing Emma to switch it off once more. Before she can react, her phone rings. As she leaves to answer, a man's ghost appears in the attic. It's now clear that these spirits are triggered by sound, all linked to the radio's strange signal. Emma answers the phone. It's Seba calling, but his battery dies and the call drops. The landline rings immediately after. Emma picks up, but she puts the receiver on the table, and on the other side, Seba could only hear static. Terrified, she thinks about running outside, but the lamp makes a noise, and a man's spirit becomes visible. As she tries to flee, the spirit grabs her by the neck, and she falls to the floor. All the doors and windows slam shut. Emma realizes that to survive, she must stay silent. She sees the word "help" typed on the old typewriter. Scared but determined, she quietly types, "Who are you?" Before anything else happens, someone drags the typewriter away and she can't read more. She tries to open a window, but it won't budge. Accidentally, Emma kicks a toy. The noise turns the radio's static back on, and she sees the ghost of a little girl hiding by the radio. When Emma switches the radio off, the girl vanishes. When she turns it on, the girl moves closer. Then the woman's voice screams for Emma to turn the radio off. Before Emma can react, the man's spirit throws her to the ground. She blacks out. The woman then turns the radio off herself. When Emma wakes, she runs to the sound room, a place where outside noise can't reach. There, she listens to the recording again. The woman's voice urges her to be quiet because he can hear us. Emma asks, "Who can hear you?" The man's spirit answers, "I can." When Emma asks what they want, the spirit replies, "I want to end your life." Hearing that, Emma breaks down and cries. Seba reaches home and rings the bell, but Emma doesn't hear. She's inside the sound room. The man's ghost appears again, visible through the bell's sound. Seeing the basement door open, Seba assumes Emma is there and goes down. The air feels heavy. When he calls her name, we glimpse the spirit, and suddenly, Seba is attacked. Meanwhile, Emma charges her phone and tries calling him, but there's no signal inside. Stepping out, she hears Seba's phone ringing from inside the house. Realizing he's home, she follows the sound to the basement and finds him on the floor, holding his head. Emma quietly tells him to stay silent and helps him upstairs. She writes in a notebook that something's in the house and they must not make noise. When she asks if he saw anything, he says no. To explain, she turns on the TV, showing static and raises the volume. But nothing happens. As she leads him to the sound room, we see Seba flinch at the noise and mute the TV. Inside, even with headphones, Seba hears nothing. Emma listens instead, and the woman's ghost says, "He's behind you." Emma turns, and Seba is gone. Searching in fear, she finds him sitting on the sofa, but his voice and behavior have changed. It's clear he's possessed by the man's spirit, and one of his eyes has changed color. Behind him, Emma sees the woman's ghost, terrified, signaling her to stay quiet. Possessed Seba attacks Emma, but before he can harm her, the little girl's ghost distracts him, giving Emma a chance to run to the attic. The radio starts playing again, and suddenly the girl pushes Emma, sending her into another house and another time. The past. Emma follows the girl, realizing she's trying to show her something. The same radio plays in this old house too. Emma sees a small family, the girl and her parents. The mother tells her daughter to stay quiet because her husband can't stand noise. The girl asks why her father has changed so much, and the mother explains that after the war, he became different, easily angered, always tense. From this, we understand the man suffers from PTSD and hearing issues after the war, making him extremely sensitive to sound. His condition has turned their home into a silent prison. Even small noises bring violent outbursts. Before her husband returns, the wife turns off the clock to keep things quiet. When the man arrives, he looks disturbed. Suddenly, a plate slips from her hand and breaks. Enraged, the husband hits her while the frightened daughter watches. Emma witnesses all this helplessly. The little girl reaches for her toy near the radio, but accidentally turns it on. Furious, her father attacks his wife, and she loses her life. In shock and fear, the girl grabs a pair of scissors and injures her father in the chest. But before collapsing, the man ends his daughter's life too. Seeing this tragedy, Emma becomes emotional, crying helplessly for the mother and child. She wants to help, but knows this isn't the real world, only a glimpse of the past. Suddenly, possessed Seba attacks her. Before he can choke her, Emma hits him on the head with a toy and runs to the sound room. Seba follows in rage, but Emma locks him inside, trapping him. She blasts loud music, causing the spirit unbearable pain, but Seba destroys the speakers. Emma then switches on every appliance in the house to create noise and escapes to the attic. Seba breaks the studio glass and follows her, mocking, "Where will you run now?" Desperate, Emma activates the alarm system, which weakens the spirit again. But suddenly, the alarm stops and the ghost laughs, regaining strength. Emma feels lost until she hears the voices of the man's wife and daughter from the radio. She realizes the spirit doesn't hate all sounds, only their voices. The woman and girl's ghosts appear and hold Emma's hands. Together, they scream loudly, creating a sound the man's spirit can't bear. He leaves Seba's body and gets trapped back inside the radio. After that, the radio got damaged. Emma quickly hugs Seba, both overwhelmed with emotion. A few days later, the story shows them living peacefully with their family. Everything seems fine again. Margarita worries that Emma might still blame her father, but Emma reassures her, saying she knows it wasn't really him. It was something else that tried to harm her mother. They embrace lovingly, finally at peace. What happened gave Emma a new strength. Back in New York, she gives her next audition with confidence and successfully records her song at last. In the final scene, the cursed radio lies discarded in the trash. The same man who once stole Seba's bicycle passes by, notices the radio, and takes it. He sells it to a woman at an antique shop. When she tries to turn it on, it doesn't work, so she leaves it aside and starts opening a painting instead. But there's something strange about the painting, too. After taking a few photos of it, she covers it back. And when she isn't looking, something inside the painting begins to move. Sensing something odd, she steps closer, and suddenly 2 hands burst out from the painting, dragging her inside. The woman disappears completely, and with that terrifying moment, the film ends. It seems the filmmakers intended to turn this into an anthology, starting with the cursed radio and ending with the haunted painting, hinting that more stories could follow. The film never clearly explains whether the radio was cursed from the beginning, or if it became that way after the tragic events. But it's likely that the violent deaths caused the spirits of the family to become trapped inside the radio. Overall, Sound of Silence feels like a classic-style horror movie, simple, eerie, and filled with tragic emotion. Hopefully, you enjoyed it as much as I did.